New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev BRZ and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
And hello again, dear ones. Dr. Robert over here.
Rev Z right here.
Rev R Ken here.
And this is Ministers Talking Shit. It's Friday morning and 7 in the morning Mountain Time. And we have a new guest with us today, a new friend, Rev R Ken Turner from Unity of Chicago South. Rev R Ken, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. It's not early enough. We're a little late on all the issues, so I'm glad to be here at this moment. Maybe we can do something with that, you know?
We're grateful that you're here too, and part of me wants to apologize that we inadvertently picked such a shit show of a Friday for your first appearance, but if you ask me, folks, the last couple days, seems to me like the American government's out of control again.
This is when we need it most. This is when our practice is most important. If folks just knew what consciousness can do, if they just knew, you know?
Very true. Z,
Amen.
I know you've been fired up this morning, so jump in here.
Yeah, well, you know, I just look at the landscape. Right? So this administration hasn't reached 100 days yet. Still a couple more days before 100 days. We've already set we got State Department appointees stepping down. We have a major in national security, the deputy and the chief deputy are stepping down. I got fired actually. And I haven't even talked about the tariffs yet, right? And and then just this morning, China imposed 34% tariffs on us.
Wow.
Yep.
Which is going to and so did Canada. Canada said they're going to put tariffs to put the maximum pressure on us. And all that to say, your consciousness, as Reverend R.K. said, we have to really get our consciousness together because we fasten our seatbelts because it's going to be a little rough ride. There's no way around this. It's going to be a rough ride. So our consciousness and a fastened seatbelt is what's going to help us get through this. The only way. I don't see another way.
Absolutely. You know, the idea of the State Department and the various departments, we should not be shocked, and we probably are not. But the people that didn't understand that this guy had a record, he wasn't a newcomer. You could see what he did. He's just doing what he did, and there should be no shock that he's doing what he did. And when you're incompetent, right, you tend to hire incompetent people. You certainly don't hire superstars unless you have a lot of confidence in yourself, which we know is lacking. This is Reverend's talking stuff, right? So I'm okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're all good. I heard some audio in the last couple of days now because of all this tariff stuff of Donald from years and years ago, and I didn't quite, but he's been on this anti-debt or deficit, not debt, but anti-deficit crusade for a long, long time. So yes, many did see this coming from an economics point of view. Those of us in spiritual realm have seen it coming and have many, not all, but many have seen it coming. And and I don't know, I was taught in high school that tariffs don't really work. They're a mechanism, but they don't really work because you end up just burning your economy to the ground. And that's one of the things I heard yesterday. China now reciprocating with 34% tariffs. Interestingly enough, if you look at the list of countries we did not put a tariff on, Russia, Iran, North Korea, we tariffed all our allies,
right?
And it seems pretty obvious some that we haven't. And what I was struck by yesterday was I was driving across Kansas for a good 6-8 hours yesterday, and all of the Christian radio stations, all the gospel radio stations, all the Christian music radio stations had people on. All of their newscasts and segments were touting how great this is. And that this might sting for a little while, but this is going to make America rich again. And
we were talking before you brought it up. Both you guys brought it up. It has never worked. And you have somebody who has run 6 businesses into the ground, including a casino, and having a theory that has never worked, and he's going to impose it upon the country, saying that it'll work because I said it. You are, the only thing you've succeeded at is buffooning people to put you in a place that you run the world. That's the only thing you've succeeded at, other than, running businesses into the ground. Not to, cast aspersion on him, but the real is the real. You have had no success. So you've had no success.
And here is the key point that you made, right? So I'm going to be a little funny here. Everything you said was wah, 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 until how do you bankrupt a casino?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I never heard of that.
Because it's never happened.
To show you how much of
it's never happened.
You're going to pick someone who runs never happened. And you're going to pick someone to run the country who can't run a casino, which I don't know if anybody ever run one of them in the ground.
That is an excellent point.
I saw that meme a while back. They're basically money printing machines. I would love to own a casino.
Absolutely.
But give me a casino. Those things just print money. But I think we're all hitting on something here because he has never been a success.
Yeah.
And he never did run a casino.
Right.
And he never did run a steak company or a vodka company, or he has always been the one to try to take advantage of people. And here's the thing, right? I think he knows he's not that smart.
I agree.
So he finds good people, but then he takes advantage of them. And then he runs them and he gets some dirt on them and he runs them into the ground and he bullies them. And he, the comment this week of, I don't care how expensive cars are. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And well, no shit, dude, because you don't drive. Because
right.
You don't have it. He doesn't have it. And he never really did. It was all smoke and mirrors. And I grew up in New Jersey, and we knew this about him when he was building Trump Tower.
Okay.
It was fairly, as a kid, we all looked at him as just Don the Con way back then. And, well, I got to give him some credit. He's got some longevity in the con game. But
yeah. Con is a good word. Con is a great word. I hear Reverend Z, Reverend Biz, I hear commentators speaking about his genius. And whenever I hear that, I end up turning the TV off because I don't see genius. I see inept media not covering them properly, not bringing out Don the Con because it was always there, the things that weren't done. And I'm happy to see success, no matter where. But I don't like it when it's crushing my neck. That part is like.
Here's another thing that I'm surprised of to some degree is that business CEOs have not spoke out against this. Now after they drop another 1,500,000 points today on their Dow, they may speak it today. But this whole idea of bringing do you know how long it takes to make a manufacturing plant?
Yeah.
Do you know how long it takes to set up the pipeline to get the resources to build these chips and cars and make all that stuff here? That's 3 to 5 years minimum.
Do you know how many Americans don't want those jobs?
Right. That's why they're not here. That's why they're not here.
Exactly. We had that infrastructure. If we were willing to do those jobs, we would have kept that. And this has, right, Stellantis announced yesterday that they're shuttering a plant in Mexico for 30 days. I heard a report that most U.S. cars cross a border at least 6 to 8 times in its production before it's sold. And things like Ford pulled out of the St. Louis Pride event after 30 years as a major sponsor. Ford also announced.
Who did?
Ford.
Wow.
And on the other, and then yesterday Ford also announced that they want to do a handshake deal with America and offer their vehicles at employee pricing for like 45 days, right? For 45 days, they're going to offer employee pricing, which, like, to me, there's like everybody's just doing the same old tap dance of, oh, well, guess we can't do anything about it. Let's fall in line so that we don't lose our stock so our stock investors don't lose any more money. And we'll just fall in line until he's gone, and then we'll go back to normal. It's disgusting to me.
Well, one of the things that they're saying is that the recovery is going to take a lot more than people imagine, with the crushing of the various systems that are being crushed, that are being decimated, that the rebuild is not just turn around and do it again tomorrow. It's going to take quite a while to remove the fingerprint of the incompetency off of this country. And that's very, I won't say scary, but it's alarming, that it's not being called out.
Yeah. And on top of that, now this, and I'm not trying to paint doom and gloom. I'm trying to paint a picture so people can wake up. Because on top of all of the stuff we're talking about now, we have not even talked about yet the laying off of federal government employees that are going to make all of these ancillary to manufacturing or to the public sector wheels that need to turn efficiently to get regulations through and things like that. But half the staff is gone. And you're going to have new people who don't understand the regulations, who don't understand the communication chain, who don't have the history of working with people to make things happen that's going to make them take longer.
Reverend Z, you're assuming that they're going to hire people.
Well, no, and I know they're not. I know they're not, you know. And so it's just going to grind the wheels even slower.
Yeah. And when you look at it, you mentioned unemployment. So I can buy a car for the next 45 days at employee prices, but I'm no longer an employee. So I don't know if I'm ready to make that type of commitment when I don't even have a job.
Exactly. I got a brand new car and I can't pay for it.
Right, exactly. Right. Oh my God. Just crazy stuff. Great. What do you guys think about what happened with Booker, the senator that did his bid on, what was it, Monday, Tuesday?
Yeah. I love what Cory Booker did.
Okay.
I love it. It may not move the needle immediately, but I think it does show that there are some leaders left in the Democratic Party that are trying to figure out a way to create some change. And I personally have long been a fan of the filibuster. I always felt it was a unique mechanism to make sure the game isn't always played exactly as it always has been, to make sure that there's some avenue for disruption in a respectful and civil way. And I always felt that was a very disruptive mechanism within our government. So I know it didn't, it wasn't a traditional filibuster in that it held up a vote or it fought for or against a specific piece of legislation. I do love that he was able to break Strom Thurmond's record. And if we've been following his record for the longest speech on the floor was against equality and civil rights, and was against, I forget if it was the Civil Rights Act or what exact piece it was. But so to have a black man break down a record and go beyond where an old white racist stood, it felt good to me. And we just need more and more people, I think, willing to stand up in the face of what's going on and say, this is not right and this cannot work.
Yeah.
Z, what do you think of that?
Well, I'm glad Booker did that. And for people who don't understand what it means to stand up for 25 hours and not have to go to the bathroom, because if he had to go to the bathroom and leave that podium, it would have ended. There are no exceptions. So the planning that he had to do, the self-sacrifice, however small some people may see it, that part was phenomenal. And I think hopefully it lights a fire for people to say, yes, there is going to have to be some sacrifice. Trump is talking about a sacrifice on the other end, right? But in terms of what Booker did, there are going to have to be some sacrifices in how we approach the game and how we move forward. And one thing that I was thinking about today, I saw a clip on it, and it's unfortunate, but I think it's going to shed some light. We put these tariffs on China, right? And now they put 34% on us. Well, we are probably, I think, the largest exporter of farm goods, i.e. soybeans and things like that, to China. I said Russia, but I meant China. So now an industry of farming and that whole thing is going to be hit hard because they're already working on the margins. And now you're going to add 34% more tax to get your soybeans out and your wheat out and whatever else you're sending overseas. Is going that community is already and quiet as it's kept. A lot of those individuals probably voted for this administration, and now they're going to get hoodwinked by this administration, and it's going to be interesting.
You brought up soybeans, and I saw a clip with I think it was the European Union, and whoever the spokesperson was said, we like soybeans, but Brazil has soybeans too. So we don't have to buy them from where we bought them from.
Exactly.
That's one of the things I keep hearing, and like from Japanese economists, I've heard that same argument that there are other options. We like having a trade relationship with the United States, but there are other options on the planet, and especially things like soybeans and avocados and bananas right now. Sorry, I just kind of switched genres because we can grow soybeans. We can't grow bananas or avocados.
Nor coffee.
Or coffees. Yeah, let's just wait till coffee prices hit $25 a pound or something, right? But the tough part is, and this is something we've been talking about this morning, it's really hard to win back those markets.
Yeah.
Once Japan starts buying soybeans from Brazil instead of the US, it is really, really, really difficult to win that market back, to win that buyer back. And we're going to have soybeans rotting in the fields. We're going to have farmers screaming. Farmers don't realize they've been hosed both directions on this.
Okay, yeah.
Some of them do, but most of them I don't think they do. Because again, driving across Kansas yesterday, I heard an awful lot of President Trump doesn't trust the media, but he trusts Newsmax. Come watch Newsmax. I heard a lot of so-called economists telling us how we're going to have to just buckle down and eat more soybeans, right? It kind of thing. It was scary listening to what the average person is listening to across the great state of Kansas.
And can I do a mic drop right in the room right now? Then I'm gonna be quiet. On top of all of this, I keep adding to this hamburger patty. On top of this, they have already started advocating and publishing Trump for a third term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he stated it. They've got schemes where they're talking about putting Vance as the president, putting him as the vice president, which nothing keeps him from doing that, and then Vance turning over the presidency to him, and then they said, among other things that we can do.
Right. Yeah. What you just mentioned, I mean, that's like he shouldn't have had a second term. The idea of a third term, that, wow. But you mentioned the fact that it's so hard to win customers back once they leave, clients back, which kind of goes into the earlier part of our conversation. Yeah. That's why you're a loser, because you don't understand that losing customers and losing clients, they don't come back to you as easily as you lost them. And that just follows the train that we talked about earlier of being a loser, and being miscalculating on just simple things, just simple things, And
you would think as a golfer, right? You would understand that it's the long game. You can have the best putt in the world, but if you can't get to the green, you ain't gonna be in the game. So it's the long game. Some people say that gets you to be a winner, not the short game. The short game is the accentuation, but it's the long game that got you in position to play a short game. And right now, he's setting us up with these, hopefully, as he sees it appears, these short, quick things to make something happen. But the long range effect of that, I mean, if he doesn't reverse these tariffs soon, in the next, by the time we get to winter, by the time September rolls around, October rolls around, and the weather patterns continue, and we got all kind of storms. I mean, look at the storms we got now, all these back-to-back storms and historical floodings and 34 tornadoes in a day. I mean, we have to change our perspective, our consciousness, our ability to work together. And on top of this, he's tearing up DEIB, right? So people not even trying to get together no more. People not even worried about trying to be their neighbor's friend. We need this guy out of here.
Amen, hallelujah, and I'll do the dance, you know.
Amen, hallelujah. So that leads me to tomorrow. Tomorrow there is a nationwide call for protest. It's the I guess the theme of it is hands off.
Right.
My understanding is the hands off organization or call is predominantly around women's rights and body autonomy and such, but we're also now stretching this into things like hands off my social security. And so hands off my body, hands off my social security. I'd like to say hands off the Supreme Court, hands off the Fed, hands off Congress, and hands off the media. Somebody just get his hands off of everything. The man's a handsy man. He likes to put his hands on everything. So
and we got the video to prove
it. Somebody does, yeah. Putin probably. So what do we think of protests? Are these effective? Getting people out in the street? I want to real quick just jump into something Linda said. Talked about Trump's plans to become a dictator. That his supporters do not want a return to democracy. And let's assume that's true. Do they even care? Could there be 1 billion people knocking on the door of the White House and they would still just say nah and keep doing what they're doing?
Wow. In Chicago here, the protest is tomorrow. The march is between 12 and 2, and I anticipate being there. And they're promoting it as hands off democracy, as you mentioned, Reverend Biz. It's hands off of everything, and they've just kind of boiled it down to hands off democracy. It seems like the movement is not so much toward him, but putting pressure on the people that have power over him, like the Senate and the House. And it's really to put pressure on those people, because I agree with you. Knocking on his door, this is not a drop the mic, Rev Z, but it's close. Knocking on his door, I don't think there's anybody home. I'm just saying.
You're right. He's off playing golf.
That is a drop the mic. He's in Mar-a-Lago.
There's a sign that said out golfing.
Yeah.
Yes. Be back in 3 years.
Yes,
back
sir.
in 5
Yes,
years
sir.
or something, right?
Yes.
You know,
Oh my God.
You hit on a point there, because he is good at campaigning, but that would probably be about it. So we don't need him again until it's time for them to start campaigning.
Well, anybody can lie. Anybody can lie. It's having the people that actually believe the lie. I'm going to end the war day one. I'm going to lower prices day one. How can you possibly believe such an asinine statement? So that's what Reverend Beers, that's what you said, that he's been a Don the con forever. So it's not so much him. He's who he is. It's the people that actually buy into what the heck he was selling. And, that's not what happened. His opponent happened to be of a different hue and a different sex. And that, in my opinion, that's what happened. And that's one of the reasons we're still in the situation we're in, because the media still won't call that. They won't call it. They give all the reasons that don't make any sense. She didn't talk to those people or what? Yeah. Yeah, Reverend Z.
Right. He'll be back.
Okay. Yeah. You're back, Reverend Z? You look like you're back.
Yeah. And the good thing.
All right, we're gonna let Xfinity upgrade Z's internet speed real quick for a minute. Okay. It'll come back around. But I hear what you're saying there, Rev. Right?
Yeah, I mean, but
Yeah.
We got caught in a.
Yeah.
I know.
Make it,
And look, the terrorists are messing with my internet already.
make what is it? Make Infinity good, great again, I guess. What do we have?
You got caught. Yes. He's got that Chinese internet.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. It's going to be very challenging. You know, they when I was in school and I was a management major, and they made the statement that you can, between 3 to 4 things, you can manage 3 to 4 things pretty good, pretty efficiently, pretty effectively. Right. You can get up to 7. When you get up to 7 things, you can still handle it, but now it's a little effort. But once you go beyond 7 things you're trying to keep track of and keep those balls in the air, it becomes extremely difficult, and everything you add after that starts going exponential. And right now we're in an exponential place of trying to manage all of the different things that have been stirred up in less than 100 days. And so in my field of view, as you started out with Rev K, is that we have to hunker down in our consciousness to understand how the universe really works.
Yes, sir. And
Robert knows that my pet peeve is we have to look at nature. We have to look at the $3.8 billion year old scripture that's still being written and still being revealing, which is nature itself, how it works together, if something happens, it stops it from happening, how it works together for the good of everybody and everything. And right now, our current administration is continually putting divide. Right. And if we're not careful, we will, I think you said earlier, Robert, even if it was you, Reverend Arcade, that we will lose a reference point. We won't even know where to begin if we get too caught up in this. So we have to maintain a consciousness that we are one people, one planet, one universe. And as Ernest Holmes would say, a house divided against itself cannot stand.
Wow, you just coined a new phrase for me. Anchor consciousness. We have to have an anchor consciousness. Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah. If not, we're repeating ourselves.
Yeah.
And I want to get off politics for a moment. Well, maybe not, but are you guys familiar with the original Fyre Fest, Billy McFarland, and the whole story of Fyre Fest?
Enlighten us.
It was this big, huge music festival on supposedly a private island in the Bahamas, and it's all high-end influencers and huge ticket prices and luxury camping and luxury villas, all this stuff, and it was all a con. It was all a rip. It all fell apart. This guy, Billy McFarland, was at the head of it. He was robbing Peter to pay Paul, and people showed up. They had nothing. There were 2 slices of cheese on a piece of bread was their gourmet, VIP meal, and all Ja Rule was a part of it, but he dropped out. Most of the musicians had dropped out before the event. There was a rainstorm. It's the epitome of a dumpster fire of a music festival. And it was called Fyre Fest, so it kind of fit. Well, Billy McFarland was found guilty of a number of charges and went to prison and did some time, and he's out in the world right now hawking Fyre Fest 2.
Wow.
And it looks like it's an incredibly, and most commentators are all like, oh, this is going to be another shit show. Like, they don't have a location. They say they do, but the location, the island they say they're going to be on is like, no, we don't have anything scheduled. We haven't talked to anybody. And like, it's just another grift. You can see it. It's another con a mile away. And truthfully, the people that fall for it, it's hard to have any real pity for somebody that buys a ticket to Firefest 2. If you don't do your research, if you don't look at the history, if you don't look at what has come before this to get you to Firefest, if you buy a ticket to Firefest 2, well, the United States voted for Firefest 2. We voted to buy tickets for everybody, whether we want to go to this shit show dumpster fire or not. We honestly don't have a choice. We are going. Yeah. And now we're going to have to figure out how to make the best out of a couple slices of American cheese on a piece of white bread for our meal, because that's what they're about to be. That's what they're offering us.
Right.
That's what's there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. No, I was just going to say real quick, we should have had that analogy when Trump was running again. I mean, because we got the dumpster fire again right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's, and I agree with you, Reverend Biz, the fact that we saw it and the people that put him in, however, if they didn't vote or they voted for him, it was there to see, and I think that's the part that kept me away from the news for the first 3 or 4 months or 3 months after the election, is that, what did you expect? What did you think? What were you thinking? That's the only thing that kept coming back. And so I couldn't watch the news. I couldn't listen to liberal radio, not because they were speaking, they hadn't said it, but they were saying, why did this happen? And my mind was, the people that did this, what did you think? What were you thinking? What were you thinking? I don't understand. And today I don't understand, but I just don't let it bother me as much, but it's still the same thing. What were you thinking? What were you thinking? You hired a thief and you expected all your goods to be there once you came back home? Come on, stop. That's crazy.
Yep. And now here's the good news.
The proverbial fox guarding the hen house, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. Here's the good news of Firefest. Nobody died. The people came together. And when they realized when people started to realize their luggage wasn't showing up, and there was a little bit of grabbing what they could, but ultimately the people survived, because there was no way off the island, by the way. Once they had these people on the island, they couldn't get them off.
Right.
And so they were stuck on this island for a couple of days, and the people banded together and worked together to survive the situation.
Mm.
Now we're talking a little bit more than just a couple of days on a tropical island. We're talking a few years in the midst of a hurricane.
Yeah.
And I fully believe, and that is what we are about. And this comes back to where you started us, Reverend R Ken, is that consciousness that we are in this together, that we can survive this, that there is a way through. And I might not see it at the moment, but there is a path forward. And if we all stick together, we can stay that course. Yeah. And we'll be here when the light breaks again.
Yeah. It's so hard to hold that concept when you're not trained, let me say, or it's not brought to you that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, but the light is you. It's not someone coming out the sky, but the light is you. So it's time to turn your light on. Yep. And whatever little light you have, whatever little piece you can add to the light, whatever small star or speck of a star you are, it's time to allow that star to shine to whatever degree it can. And that's, as you both have said, that's the only way we're getting through this stuff. We're not going to get out, but we can get through. For sure.
And like that African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together.
Oh my.
And that's what we have to. I mean, right now this guy's going fast all alone by himself, and we're going to suffer some consequences as opposed to pulling together and go together. Maybe tariffs might have been a good thing, but let's have a conversation about it before you just do it all over the globe. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
It's hard to see them being a good thing when you put a tariff on an island that only has penguins. You know, that's like, you really thought this through, didn't you?
Yes. Now all the zoos all over the country are going to be suffering.
I didn't want to leave the penguins out. Isn't that DEI stuff you're always talking about? They're both black and white. They're both black and white. This has got to be good.
I love it. That's his answer to DEI. Okay.
I got to include the penguins.
Oh boy. With this level of consciousness and thinking, I think you hit the nail on the head there. You're not too far off from the truth with that guy. I don't believe so.
Sometimes I think I should have invested in being an impressionist. we would have had a little more fun. All right, folks. We're going to wrap this up for today. We want to say thank you to R. Ken, for Reverend R. Ken, for being with us this morning. I have a sense you'll get invited back, sir, so I hope you'll come back sometime.
Absolutely, sir. It's been a blast. And to meet you, Reverend Z, awesome. And you guys just keep doing what you're doing. We need it, man. We need it.
I promise we are.
Yes.
So Z's at the age of retirement where he's going to need something to do. And I'm at the age where I've blown all the other things out of the water. That's the only thing left I can do. So we're going to have fun with it. Thanks for being with us here, folks. Please stay tuned to New Thought Media Network throughout the day. We got a full day of broadcasting. Dear's Sekou Wrights comes up next in just a few moments with Get Rich 101. Morning prayers are at 8:15. The morning sip it is at 8:30 with Rev Melissa. 9 o'clock, Emma Moreno with Spanish language programming. 9:30 is Spanish language prayers. Later today, Rev Skip and Reverend Cynthia with the High Vibe Hour is at 11 o'clock. The Joy Show with Rev B is at 1. The Good News at 5. Pastor Michael Mangus will be here with our fireside chat at 6. And we wrap it all up with our evening prayers at 8:15. So a full day of broadcasting here. We hope you'll stick around with us. Come back. Tell your friends and family what we're doing. Share a little bit more of what's happening here on New Thought Media Network. So until next time, we want to wish you peace and absolute richest blessings. Bye now.
Namaste.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.